So, first I would like to thank Federico, Leonardo, and the rest of the crowd for giving me this opportunity to share some thoughts I had about how we should value hacking in the security community. I've been working as a researcher for a big European company for about 5 years, and during that time I thought a lot about how we can do innovation and basically how we can make things better by innovating. But first, I think it's necessary at the beginning to agree on what I understand by the term hacker. So basically, at first I was like somehow, well, I'm going to Ekoparty, that's a hacker conference, we'll have security professionals all around the room, and I don't really need to do that because basically we all have the same understanding. But we might have journalists around, and I'm speaking in the name of my company, then I feel the need to clarify that. So basically, and very quickly, to me a hacker is someone that feels a deep need for understanding things. And that's pretty much about it. That someone who look at things needs to understand how they work, how they can be used, how they can be improved, modified, whether used differently from their original purpose. So his definition applies to the computer field, applies to the security field, but applies to any technical field in the world. So one of my hobby is photography. So I take a lot of photographs, all this kind of thing. And you just can't imagine how we hack in doing photographies. Like we modify cameras, we improve shooting systems, we even create new lenses. That sense, users have a huge role to play in this particular field, photography, but in any other field, like computing or security. So when it comes to computer, hackers are basically people who develop that massive, truly impressive knowledge about how it works, how a computer works, how a computer program works. And when it comes to security, these people become more and more skilled and knowledgeable at looking at things, finding vulnerabilities, understanding them, making other people understanding them, exploit them, and finally improve things. Because I do not see hackers, as I understand them, as people who spend their life trying to find ways to bring down the cyber world, to take something that is quite fashionable at the moment. They're not like, you know, exploiting crappy XSS to get your password on eBay, or this kind of thing. They are things that look into things that create, that find. So now I may go to my main point, knowing how we can value, why we should value hacking. So I will start with something that should be clear for anybody. So I will have some quick poll around you. How many people here are working in pen testing? Yeah, that's quite a few. How many of you are failing at pen testing a network more than 1 out of 10 times? Like you don't succeed in penetrating the network. You all fail? Wow. In my experience, when we do pen tests, we succeed 9 times out of 10. I mean, I've been pen testing for 10 years, and every single time we have to pen test an IT network, we can compromise something, somehow. We can get into it. And that leads to something that I think is that the way we do security is a complete failure. Like we put money, we pay people, we buy hardware, we develop solutions, and every time you get back, every time you do a pen test, you do it again. So basically it comes to how we can improve things. I mean, how we can really improve things. Because nowadays we're just like stacking up over what was there before. And we trying to push a bit forward what we had. And that's not going to work. So there are many things that could explain this. But basically, for me, one of them is, and it comes from my work, where we, actually my company's main job is to build things that fly. Planes, helicopters, rockets, this kind of thing, satellites. And basically, when we are doing this, we are doing risk analysis, we are doing things like compliance and all this kind of thing, and it works. More or less, it works. And it works because we have a very predictable field of work. I mean, we have physics model, like the plane is flying because of this and that, and that's not going to change tomorrow, right? So when we do a risk analysis on this kind of thing, then we have a very good understanding of what's going on, why is it going on like this, and why we do things the way we do them, okay? Another point is that in this industry, everybody knows about that. I mean, even the slightest programmer at the end of his desk knows what is he doing, why is he doing, and the impact of what is he doing on the big picture. And that's very important, because when you have this level of knowledge about what you do, then you can start thinking about building models, adapting your security to what you do. And basically, I think, and some other people do, that IT is nothing like this. IT is nothing like this because, from my experience, when we come to see people who are actually doing IT for a living, whether programmers, administrators, I do not find the same level of awareness of seeing what they do in the big picture. So when it comes to do things like risk analysis especially, then you're lacking a lot of information to do something that is consistent on a large scale. The other thing is the IT field is not predictable. There's very few predictability in the IT field. It's moving too fast, basically. So I've seen a lot of security projects starting with like risk analysis and all this kind of thing being trashed, because the time you end up your risk analysis, then your landscape has changed. And then you can take your result, put them in the trash, and start again. And that's a huge problem, because basically the way we are building now security, at least in large organizations, mostly rely on that. Mostly rely on the fact that you understand what's going on, which is actually not the fact. And when something big is changing, then your threat model is completely changed, and you have to redo everything from the ground. But this way of seeing things is when you look at the way innovation is done, because it's really tied to innovation. It's like, are we able to innovate in the field of security to really change things? And when you look at innovation as a global field, I mean, people tend to repeat their past success. So something had worked before, so we're going to do the same. So it might work in some situations, but in IT, doesn't work that well. There is also all these things of best practices. So say company A had some success doing something, and they will publish a paper saying this is how we do, and now everybody will jump on that and try to do the same. but your context is not the same, you're not doing the same business and everything, and then eventually you fail. And basically, as I was saying before, trying to keep up doing things that way requires from us, IT professionals, researchers, hackers, whatever, a huge understanding of the field. I mean, we need to master the bits and bytes of every single little piece of what we do from the beginning to the end. And nowadays, my feeling is that there's no way we can do that. I mean, it's too big, it's moving too fast, and especially there's no way an organization, whether a company, whether a minister, even a state or a group of states, can achieve something like that. It's really, really too big. And I'm not even mentioning the fact that today on the IT market, and especially the IT security market, you have players, big companies, who are doing whatever they can, so you don't have that knowledge. So you need that knowledge to understand what's going on, to master your security, and in front of you, you have a supplier that does anything he can so you don't have it. Because if you have that knowledge, it puts them at difficulties. So therefore, and I don't have the solution, so that's just like thoughts, but we have to change things. We have to create a situation where we can dramatically innovate. And basically, and I'm working for a big company, so that's quite funny that I tell you this, but I don't think like this innovation will come from big organization, even small organization, or company like the one I'm working for. Because in fact, what happens is they are too conservative. They they don't want to take the amount of risk they need for performing true innovation. I mean, what they want is like, I will create a new product, I have a customer base, I want revenue, return on investment, and this kind of thing. That's not compatible with disruptive innovation. So to give you a short example that is completely outside the scope of IT, is who do you think invented the mountain bike? Is it a company? Is it someone in a garage? It's nothing like this. Mountain bike was created by a group of bikers in California at the end of the 70s who were not happy with the bikes. So basically what they did, they started to share their feeling on what they wanted to do with their bikes and the problems they have. So one guy took his racing bike and took the gear system and put it on another bike much stronger. And then came another guy who said, well, it's cool, we can go fast, but we don't brake. They started to take the brakes from his motorcycle and put them on the bike because they are way more powerful. And that's how, bits after bits, mountain bike was created. So mountain bike is a huge disruptive innovation in the biking industry. And it comes from the users, directly from the users. So to give you an idea on how this innovation is important for the biking industry, mountain bikes and mountain bikes derivatives, like crossovers, are nowadays 60% of the biking market in the US. 2 bikes out of 3 come from an invention that has nothing to do with bike manufacturers. They completely missed it, basically. And basically, the same is going to happen with the IT market. I mean, all these companies, what they do is they improve. They do not bring innovation. They just like push in front. That's what we call incremental innovation, which is completely different than creating a new product. Another problem we have with innovation is sometimes, and it happens quite often, that we don't see the true value of what we create. So one example of that is the SMS, the short messaging system for GSM. At first, SMS was created for the telcos to send and receive information with the terminal. That's what we call now system messages, service messages, sorry. And basically it was created for that. And it was dimensioned for that. And one day, teenagers discovered the SMS and get fond of it. And they started to send SMSs all around. And then it's booming. And then the telcos had a huge problem, like bringing the infrastructure up to the demand for a completely different usage of a service that they created. So basically they created something, but they missed the point. And basically, we've seen the SMS booming in the early 2000, 2002, 2003, but even at that time, nobody could imagine that this short message will mutate into something like Twitter. I mean, we can send megabytes on the internet and people are fond of sending 100 characters. Go figure. So that's the kind of reason that made me think that I don't take chances in predicting that in the future, if we have really disruptive innovation that will change the face of security, they will not come from organization. They will come from the users. From you, from me, from anyone out there that is enthusiastic about that wants to look at things, that has the knowledge, that has the will to develop this knowledge, basically hackers. That's where the innovation will come from, I think. So basically, it's very funny because, I mean, some people do not agree with that. They say like organization can push actual innovation and that users are some kind of passive people that are just sitting in their chair and waiting for new products to come in and that they will buy them without any question. And we all know that in computer and security, things are not working like that. And organizations are trying hard to, defend their position. And when you look at the market, the patent thing, for an example, is a true example of that. So originally, patent was created for fostering innovation and sharing discoveries. So it's kind of a trade. You invent something, and in exchange of publishing it, so explaining to people how it works, you have this kind of short monopoly on exploiting your invention. Nowadays, this system has been completely perverted, meaning that nowadays patents are here to prevent others from innovating. So I don't know, many of you have read a recent patent in the field of IT, but that's quite terrible. They barely don't describe any technological solution, they're just protecting a need or a problem to be solved. So they say, well, we're going to solve that problem, we might do this, like this and that, and that's about it. So that's not the way you create a new thing, and that's not the way you encourage people to create new things. So basically, what I see the most important in the hacking scene is the hacking scene is completely independent. I mean, when we do things, we don't care about this guy having a patent or this guy not being happy about what we do. We just have an idea and we do it, period. And that's the way things are starting and coming out the door. So if you want an example of that, just push the door of a hackerspace and see what's going on there. See the things that are done, the things that are invented, but I mean truly invented from nothing, basically, compared to this huge organization with huge means and can't come with something that is decently useful again. And in terms of security, the independence is something that is required. If we want to understand the world we live in, if we want to understand fully the security impacts of what we're doing, we have to be independent. So basically, I'm not going to discuss this independence thing and the fact that people do things, find things, and share their results under the flag of the full disclosure debate, because that's not the point. For me, the point is that we must encourage this counterpower that will prevent some companies who are actually manufacturing things that we're using in our daily lives, knowing it or not knowing it, from hiding the skeletons in the closets. So we have many examples of that in the IT security market. I mean, every year you have at least like 3 or 4 conferences where a speaker is banned from the conference because one vendor or another said, well, I'm not happy with this talk and I'm going to sue you if you have that talk. We have a speaker here who cannot give his talk last year at Black Hat, so we had to wait 1 year for the vendors to be happy with it. This is the kind of thing that we should foster with independence. And this is getting more and more important with the massive computerization of our societies. So when it comes to reading my email and things like this, well, I can find solutions, and it's not perfect, but I can be happy with it. When I get a bit more worried, it's when it comes to things that shape our living, like, I don't know, healthcare data management, like medical device, like voting machines. If you want to have a look at what I called companies trying to hide the skeletons in the closets, look at the e-voting machine market. That's incredible. I mean, I haven't seen something so dark, so companies not willing to communicate, no companies knowing that they had issues and hiding them, than the e-voting market. And e-voting, I mean, voting is the essence of our democracies. I mean, we kind of transferring this process that is the root of what our society are to some companies that do their shit on their side and do not want anybody to look into it. And basically, if we had information about e-voting machines, it is because hackers had a look into them. So I remember a few times ago a company who also manufactures ATM saying, well, voting machines are not computer, they are just simple electronic machines. There's no way you can do something with them outside using a voting machine. So German guys of the CCC took the machine, and now the machine can play chess, which is pretty fine for a voting machine that is not supposed to do anything else than voting. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm running out of time and we're late. So yeah, I'm going to conclude because I just put the essential of my point, but basically I'm convinced that the hacker scene, I mean, the fact of hacking in the understanding of looking at things, understanding them, creating knowledge, sharing that knowledge, even if it sometimes harms people, we have to protect that. We really have to foster that, because that's where the solution will come from. I mean, we cannot wait the solution from big players. Big players are at most pushing a bit, sometimes copying. I mean, Windows Update was not invented by Microsoft. I mean, I was doing updates like this, Chrome tab on my Debian system in 1998. Okay, they didn't invent anything on this. So that will be my conclusion. I mean, go there, hack, discover things, and for people like me who work for organizations that are unable to innovate, we have to understand how it works, and we have to protect that. And for those of you who, I don't know, maybe have an influence on the way we pass laws, that's something we should be thinking about. How we can take advantage of the fact that we have plenty of talented people around that do this for fun, that do this because they like it and produce things, and we have to take advantage of that. That will be my conclusion. Thank you.